the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is a West African tradition that before you address a group of people that you ask an elder for permission to speak. So I have asked Sister Jeanette Herrera for her permission today, and she's granted that to me. You know, I was 9 years old the first time I sat on the floor of the assembly. I was told by my then representative that, you know, this was the place where constituents from all over Wisconsin, you know, sent people to do what was right on their behalf. That the politics stopped after the campaign. That, you know, when the game was over, you took your jersey off, you took a shower, and you went home. I want permission to read from a printed document from time to time.
Without objection.
The gentleman from the 53rd, the representative from the 53rd, talked about A Tale of Two Cities. Well, I want to talk about a play that I was in when I was 11 years old by that same author, Charles Dickens. It was called A Christmas Carol. And I was fortunate to portray Ebenezer Scrooge. And I'm reminded of some of the lines that I had as a young person when I hear about these assaults on poor people in Wisconsin. When he said, have they no refuge or resources? Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? And Ebenezer Scrooge then went on to suggest that those people die so they could decrease the surplus population. So I rise today in support of AB68 as it was originally constructed by the governor. And in opposition to the budget as presented to us by the efforts of the Republican-led Joint Finance Committee. I rise today because I view it as a solemn responsibility to protect our constituents, not just the 55,000 or so people that live in the 17th Assembly District or any of the other 98 Assembly Districts. However, also our constituents of land, air, and water as well. I won't talk about all of the numerous missed opportunities that we have. The pressing Control F on the keyboard and finding the word equity and removing everything. I won't talk about missing the boat on marijuana decriminalization and legalization. Or I won't talk about education, as the gentleman from the 53rd talked about Rolling Stone. I'll quote the real greatest band of all time, which is the Wu-Tang Clan. And one of their members said, life as a shorty shouldn't be so rough when we talk about education. I will talk about Badger Care expansion. We're missing the opportunity on 90,000 plus more people being covered under Badger Care. I've heard many of my colleagues talk about the expansion and the health and well-being of so many Wisconsinites. But I just want to share a story and some information about the importance of ensuring Black maternal wellness for those who may be on Badger Care. I was born to a Black woman. My sister's a Black woman. I have nieces and grandnieces who are Black women. When we talk about the birth rates of children, especially children born to Black women, we have to talk about that in the U.S., infant mortality rate is 180% higher among Black infants than other infants. In the United States, infant mortality rate is, in the U.S., 5.6 per 1,000 births, there's an infant mortality rate. That number is 13.7 per 1,000 for Black infants. In the state of Wisconsin, the rate is 14.28 for every 1,000 for Black children born to Black mothers. Wisconsin has the highest infant mortality rate for infants born to Black mothers in the nation. I myself was born at home. My mother had a midwife. I was born on the 4th due date because I was taking my time. I had meconium in my water. And the midwife told my mother, she said, your child is in distress. You have to give birth to him now. So she broke my mother's water. And 18 hours later, I finally came out. And that's why my mother says I'm always late to everything now. However, women who are eligible for Badger Care should have access to midwives and doulas because they save lives, not only the lives of mothers, the lives of children as well. We can also talk about the fact that all of the climate justice pieces were all removed. The original budget envisioned a greener future for Wisconsin. If we want to talk about on-bill financing to get some of that work done on homes, we want to talk about the Office of Environmental Justice. As a champion of a greener, more equitable Wisconsin, I view the original budget document outlined by the governor as an important vehicle on the road to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions. However, AB68 as it stands does not do near enough to address the growing climate crisis, nor help to protect underserved communities from the brunt of climate change's worst impacts. We're currently experiencing a drought here in Wisconsin. This month alone, Seattle, and you heard some of my colleagues talk about the temperatures, they're in the midst of a heat wave that they were unprepared for. While Wisconsin is in the middle of a drought, 55% of Wisconsin is experiencing at least a moderate drought condition. That's 52 of the 72 counties. A moderate drought is when you have dry or very dry topsoil, which damages some plants, crops, and pastures, creates water shortages, and some voluntary water use restrictions are requested. Every year, more folks on both sides of the aisle are recognizing just how vital it is to address the climate crisis, and this gutted budget simply doesn't do enough. One of our greatest Wisconsinites, Senator Gaylord Nelson, said, our goal is not just an environment of clean air and water and scenic beauty. The objective is an environment of decency, quality, and mutual respect for all other human beings and all other living creatures. We must protect our citizens, our constituents of land, air, and water. The GOP cut many things from this budget during the Finance Committee that would do much of what Senator Gaylord Nelson talked about. And as I sit down, I'll say to my colleagues, the vote is red on this budget. There's so many things I could have talked about, but I'm respecting the Speaker's request. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen.